This is Lisa Jahn-Clough. I'm going to read to you some stories from my collection called The Kids of CattyWumpus Street, which is probably good for anybody who is age 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 100. So if you're in that age range, listen up. You might like these stories. I am going to tell you some stories about the kids who live on Cattywampus Street. Have you ever traveled there? You would know if you had. Cattywampus Street is very long and twisty, way out in the middle of nowhere. In fact, the word cattywampus actually means twisted and rambling all over the place. And after the twistiest twist, right before the train tracks where the pavement ends, is the Wattleby Toy Store. The Wattleby Toy Store has been around as long as anyone can remember. The paint is peeling off the wooden clapboards, a window or two is broken, and the door hangs crooked. Both inside and outside the Wattleby Toy Store, strange things have been known to happen. But these stories are not about the toy store. They're not even really about the street. As I said, they are about the kids. And these kids' names are Jamal, Linda Lee, Hans, Evelyn, Charlotta, Rodney, Mateo, Amira, Emmett, Bob, and Ursula. Some may seem just like you. Others may not seem at all like you. It really depends on what you are like. You might wish that some of the things that happen to the kids in these stories could happen to you. And on the other hand, you might wish nothing of the sort whatsoever. You might find these stories odd or mysterious, silly or scary, happy, even sad. But however you find them, I hope you like them. And if you are ever winding along Cattywampus Street and pass the Wattleby Toy Store, watch out. You just may end up in one of these stories yourself. And because I'm the author and I can do what I want, I'm not going to read the first story, which is The Magic Ball, the story of Jamal. The second story is The Mean Girl, the story of Linda Lee. The third story is Waffles for Breakfast, the story of Hans. And then I'm going to read you the fourth story, a very, very, very sad story, the story of Evelyn. I'm going to warn you, this is going to be a sad story. It will get sadder as it goes. The end will be okay, but still, you might cry. It is about Evelyn, who lived in a yellow house on Cattywampus Street with her mother, father, her brother Emmett, and her cat, Chocolate Bear. She loved them all very much. Sometimes her brother wasn't very nice to her, but she still loved him. Evelyn liked to do things with her family, with her friends, and by herself. Here are some of the things she liked to do with her family. Have picnics in the park, go to the zoo, bake coconut cookies and eat them, and just hang out. Here are some of the things she liked to do with her friends. Take bike rides, swim in the pool, go to the toy store, and just hang out. And here are some of the things she liked to do by herself. Read fairy tales, play for Elise on the piano, cuddle with Chocolate Bear, and make up stories. So far, everything in this story is happy, especially Evelyn, but no one can be happy all the time. I mean, are you happy all the time? I don't think so. Sometimes you are sad, and sometimes Evelyn was sad too. Sometimes she even liked being sad. In fact, one of her favorite things to do, besides all that stuff I already listed, was to sit under the willow tree in the park and think sad thoughts. One day, as she sat under the willow tree, Evelyn heard a rustle in the bushes. It sounded like the sound Chocolate Bear made when he was playing around outside. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Here, kitty, kitty, Evelyn called. But Chocolate Bear didn't come running and meowing the way he usually did. She looked under the bush, but she didn't see him. She crawled deeper into the bush, and there he was, lying very still. Come here, sweetie, weedy, kitty, witty, Chocolate Bear, Evelyn said. But Chocolate Bear didn't move. Evelyn reached out and touched his body. It was cold and limp. She put her hand where his heart was, and there was no beat. Oh no! Chocolate Bear is dead! Cried Evelyn. Now, this is sad, but it is not the saddest part of this very, very, very sad story. Evelyn tried to move Poor Chocolate Bear. But his body was tangled up in the prickers. She ran home to get her parents, crying all the way. Just as she reached the front door, her father opened it. She was about to tell him that Chocolate Bear was dead when she noticed her father was already crying. "What's wrong?" asked Evelyn. "Emmett is dead," Evelyn's father cried. "What? No! He can't be dead!" Evelyn burst into tears. First her cat, now her brother. Her father told Evelyn that Emmett had been chasing a ball across Cattywampus Street when a car drove by and hit him. An ambulance had taken him to the hospital, but it was too late. Now, this is very sad, but it is still not the saddest part of this very, very, very sad story. Both Evelyn and her father sat on the step, and they cried and cried and cried. Then Evelyn asked her mother where her mother was. I mean, why wasn't her mother there, too? "Well," her father said, "she was so sad she had to go to the zoo, where she likes to cry." So Evelyn and her father went to the zoo to find her mother. They passed the penguins waddling and splashing in the water. Her mother wasn't there. They passed the monkeys swinging on the branches, going chee chee chee, but her mother wasn't there either. When they got to the lions section, there was a big crowd and everybody was screaming. "What's wrong?" Evelyn asked the zookeeper. "A woman fell over the wall into the den and was eaten by the lion," the zookeeper said. And do you know what? I have to tell you that the woman who was eaten by the lion was none other than, you guessed it, Evelyn's mother. "Oh no!" cried Evelyn. "Oh no!" her father cried. How could they go on? But even though this is very, very sad, it is still not the saddest part of this very, very, very sad story. I did warn you it was going to be sad, didn't I? Evelyn and her father went back home crying the whole time. And do you know what sad thing happened next? On their way, Evelyn's father tripped and he cracked his head, and yes, he died too. How could this ever be? Now Evelyn had no one. First her cat, then her brother, then her mother, then her father. What next? Evelyn stumbled the rest of the way home all alone. She cried and cried. She didn't even see her friends, Amira or Rodney or Jamal across the street. They waved to her, but Evelyn was too busy crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. It seemed like she would cry forever. The good news, if there is any to be had, is that this was indeed the last sad part of this very, very, very sad story. And I did tell you it was going to be sad. But wait, the story's not quite over. As Evelyn sat and cried, she thought she heard a faint rustle. She opened her eyes and listened. There it was again. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Followed by a little meow. Evelyn wiped away her tears and looked in the bushes. Chocolate Bear came running out. He wasn't dead. Evelyn picked him up and cuddled him. She carried him home, and guess what? Emmett, her brother, was there. He wasn't dead, and her mother and her father were there too. Nobody was dead. Evelyn had just been imagining all these very, very, very sad things, and she imagined them so clearly that she thought they had actually happened. Evelyn hugged everybody, even her brother, and to make herself feel better, she went down to the Wattleby toy store. This time she saw her friend Amira, who sang her a beautiful song, and she saw her friend Rodney, who let her hold his pet rock, and she saw her friend Jamal, who carried his magic ball. And then Evelyn bought a stuffed lion with her allowance, and even the grumpy shopkeeper smiled at her. Back home, Evelyn set the lion on top of her piano and played for Elise 6 times. Then her family made coconut cookies together, and guess what? They ate them. Evelyn was overjoyed that everyone was still alive, but when she remembered all those sad thoughts, she still felt very, very, very sad, and she cried a little more. She didn't want anyone to die. And now it really is the end of this story. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, hoo.